What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to the Warframe video. So today I'm showing one of my favorite Garuda builds, and some really good Incarnon weapons alongside it. Will be Breach Surge Garuda, meant for Steel Path missions. Now, these builds are quite nice for shredding through Steel Path enemies very, very quickly. We'll be showing how to play this build, the Incarnons I'm using, and also the dual Ichor Incarnon got a stealth buff. It was not in the patch notes, so we'll be talking about that today, as I've been enjoying the dual Ichor Incarnon after its maybe accidental buff. Before we get into it though, make sure you sub the channel. We do daily Warframe video uploads. Also check out the live stream channel. This footage in the gameplay later will be all recorded on the live stream. So if you want to come stop by while we're testing stuff out, be sure to do that. Alright, so the idea of the build today is going to be Steel Path Garuda with Incarnons. The Incarnons we have equipped right now are going to be the Latron Prime. This one's going to be used to armor strip high priority targets. You don't usually need armor strip on Garuda because she has a bunch of slash procs, but it can be good on certain enemies. The dual Toxicist Incarnon for clearing out gigantic groups of enemies with our punch through Riven. And the dual Ichor Incarnon for giving us very easy melts on enemies, and with the recent stealth buff, this thing can proc viral in a cloud. It can also proc other things in the cloud as well. We're going to be going for viral on this build. Basically, on kill, create a toxin cloud. And for Garuda herself, we got Breach Surge from Wisp. This will let us get ridiculous damage. It'll also let our Blood Orb, Dreadmere, blow up Eximus quite easily on the Steel Path. Now, I will say, this is not a replacement to the Nourish build I put up on my channel quite a few times. It's just a separate idea you can run. Maybe one of your teammates already has Nourish active. You could bring this to have both Nourish and Breach Surge, and you'll be doing really, really well. So let's just quickly show how this works. I'll just pause them to start off with. Let's show some Steel Path gameplay later. So the way this works, you use Garuda's first ability. Now you have this Blood Orb, 97,000. So what you want to do now is use your fourth ability, Breach Surge, and throw the Blood Orb, and they should all be dead. It takes a little bit of time, but yeah, they're pretty much just all dead. So that's what you can do with Garuda with no weapons. You start throwing weapons in the mix too. It can just become like a blender of death. So let's start using the dual Ichor Incarnon. I can show you how that works now too. It works very well with Breach Surge. We get to the 6x combo here. We do a heavy attack. Now every kill will cause this cloud right here. This cloud can proc your modded elemental. So it used to only do Toxin, but since I have a cold mod on here, it now becomes a viral cloud. And that can, of course, go off of Breach Surge and her 4. Not exactly the biggest damage numbers, but it can get some work done. It can also help just proc the Breach Surge ghosts that will hunt down other enemies and cause more slash procs. So quite nice there. We've also got the Latron Incarnon, as I stated, to give full armor removal. Now, the idea of this build is to basically have as much range as possible, and also to have as much, a good amount of strength. Not as much strength as possible, but this build will work at lots of different levels. We've got full shield get with brief respite and Breach Surge, giving us our entire shield back, making it where we can face tank a level 10,000 rocket launcher. But if we're not focusing entirely on face tanking level 10,000 enemies, we've got triple Umbra on here to make it where we are actually getting a ton of health and armor. Now, if you are more focused on low-level missions, I've got plenty of other builds on my channel for lower-level missions. But if you want to replace this one, make it a little bit more low-level appropriate, you could put on Adaptation over Overextended, or you could put on Adaptation over Rolling Guard. Rolling Guard is mostly for endurance runs, to be honest. So the way this works is basically we do not use Arcane Energize on Garuda. We use Molt Reconstruct. Whenever you cast an ability, you will heal depending on how much energy points you spent. And the third ability of Garuda, you sacrifice your health for energy. So it's a loop. Lose your health, get energy. Use your energy, get your health. It's enough that you can actually be fully positive on energy all the time, without Nourish. Breach Surge from Wisp is going to make it where any instance of damage has a chance to create an evil ghost that will attack other enemies. And on kill, it's a guaranteed evil ghost. We have a massive radius of 42 meters with this build. Fourth ability of Garuda makes enemies primed to take slash damage from any source. And the source of Breach Surge can be some really big damage numbers. So yeah, 100% bleed chance with this. Then, of course, our Blood Orb Dreadmere just lets us jump on enemies, take their life force, make our Blood Orb that can nuke down enemies even harder. Molt Augmented is a flexible arcane slot for sure. This is just to give us more damage, which we don't really need on Garuda, so you can go with whatever you feel like on here. You can go for Arcane Aegis for easy shield gating. You can go for Arcane Avenger for more crits. You could go with Arcane Fury for more melee damage. You want to use your dual Ichor more. It really is up to you, and anything that is somewhat decent will be nice here. Although I would not recommend Arcane Steadfast, as that can prevent your shield gate. Alright, so let's go ahead and show the dual Ichor Incarnon. Now that's going to be the main focus of today's video, as it was stealth buffed. Now what we've got on here is we've got a Riven with cold, crit chance, melee damage, and minus corpus. Now as far as I can tell, I did not use the dual Ichor Incarnon before the buffs, so I wasn't entirely sure of how it worked before, but apparently it was only Toxin before. So going over the Incarnon options on the dual Ichor, we've got the initial one, kills create a Toxin field. So that is what it was doing before, only Toxin damage. Now it can be viral, which is quite nice. As far as our evos we've got here on tier 2, I feel like the only choice is going to be Ronin's Rush. Increases your damage by plus 90. And on hitting an enemy with the final move of the neutral combo, 30% attack speed for 33 seconds. It's not enough attack speed to only have that as your only attack speed source. You're going to still want Arcane Strike or Prime Fury or like Quickening or whatever on your build. 30% is not enough for this weapon in my opinion. But yeah, very easy to keep that going. I do like that Incarnon. The other one is going to be increased combo hits on enemies affected by Toxin. This is a viral build, so they're not going to be getting affected by Toxin at all. Moving on to the next one, you got a couple good choices here. You got the one I went for with combo duration of extra 7 seconds. You got 0.6 extra meters of range or heavy attack windup speed. 0.6 extra meters of range I had before, but combo duration just felt better in the long run, as we're not running Naramon on this build. And for the final tier, you got some weird ones. You got Absolute Valor giving a massive status chance increase. The other ones are really weird though. Like one of them gives you health regen after killing an enemy affected by Toxin procs. 33 heal rate for 9 seconds, not that much healing, but some healing. And the last one, Universal Readiness. Collecting ammo gives 5 melee combo counters. So as far as I'm concerned, there really aren't many other options on this thing besides the good ones. Now the Toxin Clouds scale with certain mods. They don't scale with every mod. So for example, on this Riven right here, the critical chance is not affecting the Toxin Clouds. But the plus cold and the plus melee damage is affecting the Toxin Clouds. Bane mods affect the Toxin Clouds. I'm not sure if status chance does. I don't think it does. But yeah, basically as far as my build right now, only thing affecting those clouds is going to be the Riven with cold and melee damage, the Bane mod, and then I guess Condition Overload probably works on. I haven't thoroughly tested that yet though. These things are pretty nice. Let's get some footage on the screen of how this works in mission, because these dual Ichors really carve through the enemies, especially if you are using that Latron Incarnon I showed in the video, which can remove enemy armor. See this Acolyte right here? That was no armor strip. Now the armor's gone. It's an insta-shred. So very nice synergy here. And as I stated earlier, it's not my only Garuda build. I got actually over 6 different Garuda builds. I can only have 6 built on my Garuda at any time. So as far as where would Breach Surge place in the pantheon of Garuda builds, I'm not sure. I feel like this is not as good as Nourish, actually, because Nourish works on, rather, the viral buff of Nourish does work on Garuda's 4, making it do viral and slash, and the Blood Orb of Garuda is also affected by Nourish, making it do slash and viral as well, and they're big damage nukes. So I think that one's kind of hard to replace, but this is actually very good for like AoE, safety, coverage, nuking. It's still a top tier build. Like I would say, if the Nourish build was S tier, this would be like A plus tier probably, where it's like potentially not as good, as this does not buff your teammates. Nourish does buff your teammates, and also the Blood Orb is not really being buffed here. We're mostly using Garuda as a weapons platform frame right now, with some, like I can nuke these guys down with the Blood Orb if I want to, but it's just nice and fun to use the dual Ichor Incarnon, so that's my current opinion on this build. It's very, very good, a build you should have, but if you got Nourish, maybe if you really like Garuda and you want another build config for it. This is nothing new, really. It's nice to see the dual Ichor Incarnon buffed. As you can see, the enemy walks into the Toxin Cloud and will die to the Toxin Cloud combined with Breach Surge and the 4. So it's pretty nice. But the problem with these Toxin Clouds, they're really small AoE. But I was using on a previous build, I had Roar Garuda, and the Roar damage buff does work on these Toxin Clouds to make them like kill enemies quite easily. And I believe another stealth change is that if an enemy dies a Toxin Cloud, they can create another Toxin Cloud from the corpse. So that is interesting, but again, very small, like 2-3 meter radius. So you're gonna need to be like honestly grouping enemies up to get that effect, or just have them walk into the cloud like you're seeing in the footage right now. So that's basically it. Now, of course, you could mod this for, I have only viral on here right now. Yeah, you could put on a gas build on here. You could put on a viral heat build, even if you wanted to like sacrifice another mod slot to put on a heat mod. They should proc viral and heat. And remember, the dual Ichors do have built-in toxin damage in the first place, too. So that's what we're getting viral with just one elemental mod. Now, as you can see, these enemies get shredded quite nicely. You're only getting orange crits with this build. That is with a crit chance Riven, too. So yeah, red crits on the dual Ichors going to require some glider mods at least. So good luck with that. As far as the rest of the builds, it's not really a focus on the other Incarnons, but I'll quickly show those here at the end of the video. Now we have the dual Toxist Incarnon meant for clearing out groups of enemies. We've got a corrosive build in here, I believe. And what the big thing here is that since this thing can chain between enemies, punch through makes it chain between more enemies. So you get a punch through multi-shot crit chance minus zoom Riven. Not as much DPS as this double crit minus zoom Riven, but honestly I found that even for like level 10,000s, this is plenty DPS. So very nice here. The way the dual Toxist works is that it has, on headshot, it will get toxin damage built in. So we just throw on electric, it becomes corrosive on headshot. If you don't have a Riven, you can throw on punch through there, I guess. For the Latron Prime, it really just comes down to, like, you could just have no mods in this, honestly. Just throw on multi-shot mods. The biggest thing here is as much multi-shot and as much crit as you can go for, and we're just focusing mostly on the armor strip Incarnon, just to remove armor from like an Acolyte or a Thrax if we're having a problem with a Thrax. Although we should not, as most of our damage is viral and slash, which should bypass armor. Alright guys, that's basically it for the video. I was using the Panzer Phyla in here, but that's definitely going to change. Guys, once the companion rework goes through, we will be hopefully using other companions besides just this and the Smida. I'm looking for some of those Kubrows to be a lot better. Hopefully Hounds will be usable. Predicites, the list goes on. So yeah, Panzer Phyla still like being used all the time right now. Same with the Smida, but we'll see if that changes in the future. Hopefully not including any Panzer or Smida nerfs. But yeah, I'll see you guys next video. Appreciate all the support. Take it easy. Bye.